short last minute. We weren't allowed to have more amplification here at Fed Square. Aside from speakers, we're also going to be singing songs together and listening to a few people. Because we're in Australia, one of the things that we want to work to with everybody is trying to get Australian politicians to speak out against the horrors that are happening at the moment in Chile, to denounce the repression of the Chilean people. This is like turning back the clock 40 years. Again, we're gathering here to denounce violence in our countries. I'd like to welcome our first speaker is Tim Watts. He's a Labor MP, member for Gellibrand. First politician to speak up. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, compañeros. I'd like to start today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I also want to thank the organisers today for starting today's protest with that beautiful combination of Indigenous ceremonies. I always say that in Australia, multiculturalism works because we work at it, we learn from each other. And I'm really proud to be a representative in Melbourne's West, in Footscray, all the way through to Point Cook, to represent hundreds of Australians of Chilean heritage and even more of Latin American heritage. And when people ask me what I learned from that community, what their contribution to Australia is, I tell them that this is a community that teaches us not to take our democratic rights for granted. This is a community that knows what it means to have these rights denied to them. Freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of life, freedom from torture. These are rights that Australian-born people take for granted. We don't know what it's like not to live with these rights. So this is a great gift to Australian democracy that Chilean Australians and Latin American Australians give to us every day. But we have to honour this gift by speaking out when these rights are in jeopardy around the world, as they are in Chile today. Just as 40 years ago, the labour movement, the trade union movement, labour stood in solidarity with activists in Latin America, in Chile, we need to stand in solidarity again today. I'm very pleased to see so many families here today. Not just the people who were forced to flee 40 years ago, but the people who have learnt those lessons from the older generation. This is a great lesson for us all. So together we must all say that it is never right for a government to use the military against its own people. It's never right for a government to use violence against its own people. And it's never right to detain its own people. We must put a stop to this now, and in Australia we must exercise our democratic freedoms, our democratic rights, to stand in solidarity with those fighting in a dangerous situation in Chile today. We must put an end to this violence. Thank you.
Quiero invitar ahora al amigo Telmo Languiller. Telmo Languiller is also an MP.
Tengo una carta del diputado federal, compañero y amigo de Tim Watts, que no pudo estar aquí, pero nos pidió que hagamos lectura de su carta, de su solidaridad y de su compromiso con esta comunidad y con la democracia y la libertad y los derechos humanos de Chile. Firstly, I'm sorry I cannot be with you in person. Since being first elected to the Federal Parliament in 2016 as the member for Wales, I have spoken out in Parliament and the media in support for fundamental rights of peaceful protest and democratic freedoms for many people across the world. Today in Chile is not different, because I know that for many of you what's happening in Chile right now must bring back terrifying reminders of the violence and persecution that many of you and your families had fled from during the Pinochet years. I cannot express what you must feel. It was heartbreaking to hear the distressing accounts of police and military crackdowns on protesters in Santiago. Peaceful protesters taken to the streets because they are exercising their right to demonstrate for a better Chile, yet are faced with guns and the army. Chile is a wealthy country, but not all share equality in its wealth. There is rising economic inequality, and the working and the middle class are lumbered with stagnant wages and are facing rising costs in healthcare, in education, and big price rises in public transport. $1.75 American per fare. We need to call it out. We should stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Chile. That's why you are here. While Chile is a democracy, the decision of President Piñera to send in 20,000 riot police and the nation's army must be a grim and fearful reminder of the horrors of the past, and is a wake-up call for all of us in the international community. 18 people are dead. There are reports of human rights violations. The right to peaceful protest is a fundamental right and should never be violated. That is why you are all gathered here today in Federation Square. It is also why I will continue to fight with you and my Labour colleagues in Canberra to advocate for the people of Chile as I represent your voice in our national parliament. As a democracy, a country that values human rights, and for a Labour Party who fights for these rights, we have a responsibility as good international citizens to speak out against violent actions, to hold governments to account, and to play a positive role on the global stage. We support the right for peaceful protest, the right to freedom of association. There is no easy solution, and we cannot change things alone, but we can all play our part. You're here today playing your part. I thank you, Pira Khalil, Labour member in Victoria. Thank you. Gracias.
¡Romano! ¡Romano!